12 years. And for a big part of that time, I was also working. But nowhere will you see in the 1,000+ articles anything about what I do as work.
So
I never talk about, work.
So if you are blogging about your favorite restaurant and conversation you happen to have at your favorite restaurant that was political in nature, you're a civil servant, there would be a discomfort expressing your opinion on political matters, and I guess in these circumstances, what some civil servants would prefer to do is not put those guidelines to the test and find out how broad or how narrowly they're construed. So my sense is that in these cases, I think pseudonymity or anonymity is erring on the side of caution. Not necessarily because you have something to hide and you want to intentionally evade these guidelines.
Yeah, I think this panel is sort of groping in the dark because none of us has a clue how the civil service works. But I see from some nods in some of the audience that there's probably some civil servants in the audience. So think about later on if you want to enlighten us and give your own list of to-dos or not to-dos as a civil servant blogger, feel free to share. But I can't let that topic go without, of course, asking Alex the question to which I actually know the answer because I've asked you before, but perhaps many of you don't. Why in the world yawning bread?
I'm a marketeer. My job is to create brand names. And I just decided that, look, it's got to be something like so out of this world that people keep on asking why on earth yawning bread. Every time anybody does that, he advertises for me. Right? It's easy to it's so weird that it's a little easier to remember than Blue Rabbit or something like that, which is also a little bit crazy, but there you are. It has no meaning. It's just for sound and it's just for its impact value.
So it's not because Alex blogs and his kopitiam over breakfast while he's half sleepy and things. Okay, now a question about the way you select topics to write about. Again, it's easy to publish anything that comes into your head, but you're obviously quite selective in what you write about. I guess partly because you don't do it full time, so you need to use your time wisely. How do you decide what's worth that investment of time and effort?
I have the benefit of working with a huge team, so a lot of people in the team. One of the benefits of working with a large group is division of labor. That's one of the key time savers that a group blog gives you, which blogging personally can't. So a lot of ideas I have, sometimes I want to develop, but know that I don't have the depth of expertise or the time to do the research. So for instance, if it's on HDB matters, I give it to one of my columnists, Leong Zihian, who's an accountant, and he can crunch the numbers, so I don't need to go through them. Personally, the pieces I do are largely political in nature, and that's one of the main reasons I started blogging, because there wasn't enough, I thought there wasn't enough in-depth quality political discussion going on. I thought I wanted to contribute to that. Yeah.
I mean, I've noticed that you use a phrase in one of your blogs about trying consciously to be contrarian, and yet within certain codes of acceptability, right? And you said this in the context of your article on the Seng Han Tong controversy,
right?
After the Minister of State, Yu Tai Ke, had come out criticizing the blogosphere for being very cruel in its comments about this MP that had been attacked quite viciously. So if I remember correctly, you came out and said that, and you certainly distanced yourself from those blogs and said that it was indeed cruel, but at the same time argued that Mr. Liu's call for self-regulation was going too far.
Yeah, yeah. So in this particular case, I thought it was important to contribute to the norm setting that was going on online. Part of it was strategic in that, again, going back to my first point on safeguarding what little freedoms we have left online, it strengthens our case for internet deregulation and wards off further regulation if we set certain norms of acceptability on the internet, which are not written into substantive law. For instance, saying this guy deserves to be burnt is not, I guess it could potentially be incitement, but it's not written into substantive law, it's not illegal. So this goes to norm setting and norm generating. And I think this type of positive norm setting will ward off these calls for regulation of any sort, whether it's self-regulation or government regulation. So the distinction I would make is between regulation, which implies a sort of authority and hierarchy of power, and moderation, which is self-generated.
Alex, how do you decide what to write about?
I try to write only when I think I'm adding value. Well, there was a time when I was young and silly, and I would just rant.
And you thought everything added value?
And I thought everything added value, really.
We all have to go through that phase.
We all have to. And then after a while, when you have a little bit extra time, you read other things on the internet, you read, oh my God, he's saying the same thing as I am. Oh my God, she's saying the same thing as I am. Then you kind of feel a bit small, like, what have I said that is so remarkable, And then you say, I've wasted my time, And so I think it's important to try to add value, like a special perspective, an unusual perspective, like digging up some facts that other people don't have and presenting those facts. That, where people feel rewarded, for better or for worse, from spending time on your blog. I will just give you some example, I write a lot about sexual orientation issues. That's because I see that the mainstream media don't care very much about it. I write, I think unusual for the Singapore blogosphere, quite a bit on foreign affairs issues, because I think our mainstream media carries the reporting, but not so much commentary, other than syndicated commentary on foreign affairs. There's very little discussion really on, for example, what Singapore's foreign affairs should be like, what direction it should be taken. We just report. We report the Shangri-La conference and so forth, but we don't really have a debate about it in our mainstream media about whether this is the right direction for Singapore or not. And so I think the one area in which we can pick up the slack in the blogosphere is to do this kind of thing where the mainstream media do not.
One thing that I think distinguishes both of your blogs from the run-of-the-mill is the fact that you're not only armchair critics. Sure, you are armchair critics, definitely, but not only that, right? It's the common criticism of blogs is that they are parasitical. In the end, they rely on the raw material from mainstream media and other sources. And the bloggers just sit back and comment on other people's work. In your case, though, you actually do go out and report. I think one of the classic examples, of course, is Alex's climbing 13 floors up Hougang block of flats to shoot a picture of the tens of thousands of people at the Workers' Party rally in the last election, poetically called On Hougang Food, which then even made local and regional newspapers as well. A simple example of how literally legwork can make a difference to your blogging. There's another, probably less well-known example from last December, where you wrote a long blog